coaches. It's nuts.
There were so many Easter eggs, callbacks, and references in the Ted Lasso Season 3 finale that we needed a part 2, so let's go. What's going on, you lovely people? Lisa here. Time to talk about Ted Lasso again, and I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you because you were so nice on my first video. You left great feedback, great comments. You found a lot of Easter eggs that I didn't catch, and so a lot of people wanted a part 2, so we're just going to put them all together in this one video, and then if there happen to be any that we don't pick up on or we missed, you can just leave them down in the comments. But I feel like with the amount of Easter eggs and callbacks, like that was this whole episode. Just proved that it was like a love letter to the series as a whole. But let's just get started with this video. I'm gonna go from the start of the episode and work my way towards the end. There will be a little bit jumping around in between, but we're gonna try to do it in chronological order. We kick off the episode with Thierry Henry saying that Rupert should have stayed with Rebecca, to which she responds in the way some of you pointed out Coach Beard did previously.
They were a power couple.
Oh, shut up, Thierry Henry.
I hate Coach Beard.
Shut up, Thierry Henry.
Now, when Ted walks into Rebecca's kitchen, he's wearing a Kansas City Current shirt, which he previously wore in Season 3, Episode 3 when Facebook stalking Dr. Jacob. Now, this is a shirt for Kansas City's professional women's soccer team. Of course, Jason Sudeikis is from Kansas City, often reps it in the show with either t-shirts or hats and stuff. But also, in the end of the episode, we have Keeley presenting Rebecca with the idea of an AFC Richmond women's team, so it's just great to see the support for women's soccer in the show. But also, some others seem to think it could be maybe foreshadowing maybe what Ted does next. The blazer that Jane walks into the kitchen wearing is one that Rebecca wore during the Christmas episodes. Also, just a shout out to Beard's shirts. He's repping the darkness. Did anybody else start singing I Believe in a Thing Called Love in their head for this? Next, you gotta love Rebecca's housekeeper, Mina, who makes another appearance. After she walks into the kitchen, she gasps and goes, "I'll start in the guest room." She said something very similar in Season 2, Episode 6, after walking into the kitchen where Rebecca's naked lover, Luca, was standing there. That time, though, Mina said she'll start in the study. Now, in the locker room, we have Isaac sitting on his throne acting as a judge. This is kind of like how he did in the Christmas episode, sitting on his throne acting as Santa. We have Nate returning to AFC Richmond, not as the assistant kit man, but as the assistant to the kit man, which many of you pointed out was a reference to the show The Office and assistant to the regional manager. Also, Nate is carrying the money box, which I'm guessing is either the same one he had in Season 1, Episode 2, or he ended up remaking it, but either way, that box is back. And this scene really kind of shows a lot of Jamie's growth. We've seen him grow so much throughout the show, but in Season 1, when they were collecting money for Sam's birthday party, Jamie doesn't put money in, he just puts his gum in the box. Now in the finale, the money is going towards the end of season party at Sam's restaurant, and Jamie puts money in the box, then calls Nate back to put extra money in the box, and then tells Nate to not tell. And that's not all. A lot of you pointed out Jamie's hat in this scene. Now, back in Season 1 and often throughout the show, he wears a hat that says Icon, obviously because he thinks he's the superstar of the team, the only one that matters. But now in the finale, he's wearing a hat that says I, cog, I, cog, showing that he is now a team player and just a cog in the machine, which the commentators also point out during the game, calling Jamie the central cog of the team. Now, when Rebecca learns that she could sell AFC Richmond for £2 billion, she spits out her drink, which is something we've seen both Ted and Rebecca do throughout the show. She also says, F me, and the commenter Jay pointed out that she's definitely said that a few times before. Now, we're up to the So Long Farewell performance. This commenter reminded me that the team does something for a staff member each season. In Season 1, they spelled out Hi Boss for Rebecca. Season 2, they practiced a routine to Bye 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 for Dr. Sharon, even though they didn't get to do the full performance. And now in the finale, they're finally doing a full performance of So Long Farewell. This is a callback to the conversation that the coaches had about their favorite Julie Andrews role or performance, and I like to think that Roy is the one who put this together because he said his favorite Julie Andrews character was Maria, and well, we see Roy is singing along to So Long Farewell, kind of like how he sang along to Let It Go when Rebecca did it during karaoke. Now we know that the show loves a good classic movie callback, line, or tribute, and we have here the Say Anything tribute with Will and the Boombox. We also have Keeley doing her classic locker room entrance, pretending to cover her eyes, and we haven't seen that in a long time, but the first time we saw it was the pilot episode. Now, when Rebecca is having a meal with her mom at the Crown and Anchor pub, they are talking about Tish. Now, someone pointed out that the actress who plays Rebecca's mom is also the mom on Succession and kind of gives the same advice when it comes to selling the club. The two of them also talk about the sidekick Tish, and Rebecca says Tish is a fraud, but the thing is, we've seen all the things that Tish predicted come true. In the finale, the last one comes true with Rebecca becoming a mom, and it happens in a few different ways. First, our three favorite fans call Rebecca the mother they never had. Then later at the airport, Rebecca tells Ted that the article about her called her the club matriarch. And then obviously at the end of the episode, Rebecca runs into the Dutchman from the Amsterdam episode and his daughter, and we see they are still together in the flash forward at Higgins' barbecue, so they stay together. She basically becomes a stepmom. And jumping ahead, and many of you pointed out that the guy, the Dutchman, is a pilot, so technically he's a flying Dutchman. He's also going to help Rebecca see the world. And many of you also pointed out that the actress who plays the Dutchman's daughter is actually credited as playing young Rebecca in season 3, episode 10 as well. You know, when Rebecca sees the younger version of herself sort of in the mirror, and that explains why Rebecca was drawn to that little girl at the airport. Alright, now at the Trent Crimm's book, you can see that the original name of Trent's book was The Lasso Way. We saw in the pilot episode Rebecca say it to the reporters that they'd be doing things the Lasso Way, and Trent was in that room, which is probably why that name stuck with him. Now, of course, the name of the book ends up being The Richmond Way, since Ted said it was never about him, so you gotta wonder if the show does continue in some way without Ted, could it be called The Richmond Way? Alright, I feel like this one's a deep cut, because this user pointed out how Jamie touches his beer, then chugs it and says worth the wait, is very close and reminiscent of a scene in the movie Ice Cold Alex, which ended up being turned into a beer commercial as well, or used for a beer commercial. Now, after Jamie and Roy get rejected by Keeley, Jamie asks Roy if he's hungry, and Roy's like, you can come watch me eat a kebab. Is it kebab or kebab? Does it depend on your accent? But that means that Roy is taking Jamie to a place special to him, just showing this bromance, because remember previously, Roy told Ted that this kebab place was like church to him. Someone else pointed out that the Doner Kebab restaurant is a sponsor for the big game. You can see the same little cartoon mascot there on the LED screen. Now, as the big game begins, we see a bunch of familiar faces. We have Shannon, the woman that Ted kicks the ball around with in the neighborhood, who I'd love to see if there's a women's team spinoff. We also have the old guy from the neighborhood, who we last saw in the Mom City episode. We have this old couple who shared their love story back in season 2, episode 5. And then we have John Wingsknight and his fiancee, Jessica Darling. If you remember, John dated Rebecca for a bit, and his fiancée is the one who said the psychic's phrase, shining armor. Now, poor John's also the one who gets hit in the face by Isaac's penalty kick, but it looks like he's loving life, so maybe this will help him finally pick a favorite football team. We also have Colin's boyfriend, Michael, picking up his ticket under the name Winona Judd. Now, this is a callback to when Ted talked about using celebrity names as aliases for people to pick tickets up under, and usually he uses female country singers' names, because Roy previously picked up a ticket under Reba McEntire. Alright, back in the States, we have Michelle, Henry, and Dr. Jacob getting ready to watch the game, and Jacob is not wearing Richmond gear. Someone pointed out that his shirt is the color of part of one of West Ham's kits, kind of like the one that Nick Muhammad wore in this interview. We see Dr. Sharon wearing what looks like a Dallas Cowboys shirt. We know she left Richmond to go work for another sports team, so maybe it was the Dallas team. Alright, then we head to the office where the coaches are all talking, and Ted's talking about how he doesn't understand the different leagues. They're explaining it to him again. This is a callback to a conversation in season 1, episode 10, when Coach Beard is again explaining all the leagues to Ted. We also see that Coach Beard is reading a book called Impermanence, which just means the state or fact of lasting only for a limited period of time. Now, during the Diamond Dogs part where everyone is looking for hidden cameras, someone pointed out the fourth wall break here with Jason Sudeikis and said that the fourth wall was also broken 2 other times throughout the finale. Also, now that Nate is back, he's a Diamond Dog again. He resumes his same spot on the bookshelf just like he did back in season 1. And that episode was called Diamond Dogs, and when they ask Roy if he wants to be a Diamond Dog, it's because he's asking for a relationship advice about Keeley, and he's kind of doing the same thing here, but mainly asking if people can change. Another familiar face we have this episode is George Cartrick, so Ted's facing off with the guy whose job he ended up taking over. Rupert's long flowing coat is giving very much Star Wars villain vibes, which isn't surprising since his office was inspired by Palpatine's throne room. Some other familiar faces we get back this episode are Sassy, Barbara, and Higgins' wife. Okay, this part's kind of funny. We have Van Damme. He's gifted a mask that sort of looks like Zorro, the hero, you know, from Danny Rojas. It inspires Van Damme to be called Zorro, like the hero, but it's actually kind of close to his real name, Zorro. And we have the commentators in the finale episode discussing, you know, Zorro's last name, how to say it, which is a callback to season 1, episode 10, when they were also like, is it Zorro, Zorro? On the whiteboard, we see that Coach has written fourth thing because they still don't know what that fourth thing with total football is. They have conditioning, versatility, and awareness, but Ted said number 4 doesn't know what it is, but it's important. Well, we learn in this episode, after they kind of piece together that belief sign again, that it was believed this whole time. Now, there are a lot of pop culture references and puns and things throughout the whole show, so I'm not going to name them all, but we get some of those in Ted's various speeches throughout this episode. Then when Ted's on the sideline, he yells, "Keep calm and get fired up," which some of you pointed out was used in the original commercials where the Ted Lasso character originated from. That was his motto, and obviously it's a play on keep calm and carry on. Now, Ted's wearing red shoes throughout the final game, and with the amount of Wizard of Oz references and parallels throughout the show, and Ted bringing up the phrase, "no place like home," the shoes definitely remind us of Dorothy's ruby red slippers, and some of you have also even said kinky boots, since Ted mentions that musical later on, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Back in the season 1 finale, everybody's phones went off and they found out the score of the Crystal Palace game and figured out they needed just to have a tie. Same thing happens in this season 3 finale, where all the phones go off and they find out what the score of the Man City game is. Now, during halftime, when Ted goes to say that the team needs to believe but the sign's not there, eventually we have Sam and the rest of the players returning the piece of the believe sign to put it back together. Jamie actually takes his piece out of the same F. Scott Fitzgerald book that Ted gave him in season 1. Now, seeing that it's tattered and stuff, I want to believe that Jamie dug the same copy out of the trash, and that's the one that we're seeing. After the half, we see multiple players take shot on goal, hitting the post until Jamie finally scores. A commenter named Mike pointed out this seems like a callback to when Jamie and Danny were having that contest where they were trying to hit the posts, and Jamie ended up losing because he missed it and got it in the goal. This time, though, everyone's hitting the post when they shouldn't be, and Jamie is the one to, again, hit it into the net, but this time scoring. Now, when Jamie gets fouled, Henry yells referee, which this commenter pointed out is like what Beard does. We also see that it is Sam that helps Jamie back up. Now, in the pilot episode, Sam tried to help Jamie up off the field, and Jamie swatted Sam away. So this just again shows the progression of their friendship. Now, Jamie doesn't take the penalty and passes it off to Danny Rojas, who passes it off to Isaac. Now, Danny passing it off kind of reminds us of when he had the yips, even though now he's over his yips. But now we're just kind of showing the versatility. We have Isaac taking this penalty kick that he's never done before. Now, we see Higgins cover and try to protect his wife, because if you remember, when Isaac was trying to take a corner kick in practice, he broke the window right where Higgins was. But we see that Isaac doesn't break the window this time. Instead, he just breaks the net. Another call back here is the coaches all crossing their fingers, hoping that he makes the shot. But because of what Danny Rojas previously did to Earl the Greyhound, the new Greyhound is wearing a little helmet and trying to hide from this penalty kick. Now, after the kick goes in, you can kind of see a flag hanging that says Chicago Greyhounds, and Chicago has also been a city that has also been referenced throughout the show a lot because Jason Sudeikis has a personal connection with it. Now, a user pointed out that Rupert telling Cartrick to take Jamie out reminded them of the Karate Kid and kind of sweep the leg. We then have everyone yelling wanker at Rupert as he leaves the field, and it shows how the tables have turned, because when Ted arrived, he was the one everyone was calling a wanker. Someone else had pointed out to me that it reminded them of the shame scene from Game of Thrones, in which Hannah Waddingham, who plays Rebecca, was that shame nun. When it looks like West Ham have taken the lead, Ted's the only one who realizes right off the bat that the team was offside, which is a callback to the second episode of the show where Trent asked Ted to explain offside, and all he could say was, "You know it when you see it." And then season 1 episode 10, when Ted tries to ask the referee what offside means, and then Coach Beard has to explain offside to him. We also have Coach Beard paying up on the bet because they made bets throughout the show about Ted learning things about football. Now, when it's time for the last minute play with the free kick, Ted asks for some plays from Beard and Roy, and he says, "Talk to me, geese." Of course, that's a Top Gun reference, this time plural. But Beard and Roy end up naming a bunch of trick plays that were put on the board in season 1, episode 10. That include the Lasso special, Logi's toboggan, and upside down taxicab. Then Ted sees Nate and tells the team to do the trick play that Nate first pitched Ted in season 1, episode 3. They don't understand what Ted is acting out till he mentions the SB, and it clicks with Jamie, and then we see Jamie literally reenact everything Ted did when they showed him the play initially, and Sam scores off that trick play. Now, before Sam takes that winning shot, a lot of you pointed out that Ted says barbecue sauce, which he also said before his winning dart throw against Rupert. And the Ted Lasso Twitter once explained this. Ted basically said, if you're about to take a winning shot, think of something that makes you smile, and for him, it's barbecue sauce. We also saw that his Wi-Fi password is barbecue sauce. Now, during the celebration, we see Nate jump into Ted's arms like he obviously used to do. Now, as the fans and everyone's loved ones storm the field, we see Colin and Michael share their kiss in front of everyone. You all pointed out this was a callback to Colin's conversation with Trent, where he said he'd love to do that with Michael after a big win. We got Ted doing the Running Man, which you know Jason Sudeikis is known for. He used to do it on Saturday Night Live, but we also saw Ted do it with the American football team in the pilot episode. Then we hear the commentator Chris Powell say he never knows how to react when a white guy does the Running Man, which a lot of you pointed out is a callback to Keely saying, I never know how to react when a grown man beatboxes in front of me, and Roy when he said, I never know how to react when a man does a Carlton in front of me. Then we head to the airport with Ted, where we see that Rupert has lost West Ham. We have all these magazine articles. Rupert's ex-wife Bex is writing a book of placenta recipes, which is a callback to the funeral episode when Bex mentions that she bonded with the baby by eating her placenta raw. Meanwhile, Miss Cakes, the mistress, is heading to Love Conquers All, the Love Island type show that Jamie went on. We then see the article that says Rebecca's selling 49% of the club to fans, and Zava's on the cover of a magazine where he talks about his avocados, which we saw earlier in the finale episode, Zavocados, but he's also going off to play for the Los Angeles Football Club. Now, the producers have said this character was modeled after a few players, but mainly Zlatan, who ended up going to play for LA Galaxy at one time. We also have the same magazine having Isaac's last name on it, and we see that Zero is heading off to film with his hero Jean-Claude Van Damme in a remake of the soccer movie with Sylvester Stallone, Escape to Victory. And John on Twitter pointed out that the team colors for that movie are very similar to AFC Richmond colors. Now, Man City's actual manager, Pep Guardiola, made a cameo in the Mom City episode, and he's featured on the magazine cover here, saying he's launching a clothing line for men with perfect silhouette, which is amazing since Pep is known for his style. Then we have an actual issue of the Beano comic featuring English football player Marcus Rashford that I believe came out in July 2022. Then on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine, we see that Shandy's celebrity dating app is a hit, and you'll also see a headline here about Jack Danvers. It says, Jack Danvers is no longer daddy's little girl, which many of you speculated could mean a lot of things, but I'm leaning towards, maybe she's been disowned for some kind of scandal. Now, one of the other headlines says a sit down with the CEO of Verani Sports, which someone pointed out was the fictional kit supplier for the first 2 seasons of Ted Lasso for AFC Richmond before Nike took over. All right, now at the airport, we have Ted running into the Aussie kid named Tommy, who appeared in 4 episodes of the show, but the very first time was in the pilot episode on the plane. Now, in the pilot, he didn't know Ted's name, and you all pointed out how he told Ted that Ted was mental for taking the job. Now, as Ted is leaving, Tommy knows Ted's name and says it's stupid that Ted is leaving now. They end up getting an Ussie, and Tom always says after he takes it, wicked. We've seen it in the other episodes, but no one usually responds. This time, though, Ted responds saying kinky boots, so we get 2 fun musical theater references there. But also, if you know anything about the musical Kinky Boots, there's obviously red boots. We saw that with the red shoes earlier, but also a lot of that deals with the father-son relationships, which has been a big part of this last season of Ted Lasso. Now, you all also pointed out that the top Rebecca is wearing at the airport is the same one from when she first met Ted in the pilot episode. And of course, in the airport scene, Ted calls it out for being the classic rom-com leave cute. A lot of commenters also pointed out the parallels in Ted and Beard's conversation on the plane. Ted asks Beard if they're nuts leaving like this, and in the pilot, Ted asked Beard if they were nuts for taking the job. And James left a comment on my last video saying that Ted and Beard started the show flying in coach as jokes and are now returning home as heroes in first class. At least Ted is. Next up, some of you pointed out how Beard throwing water on his face is kind of like the witch in the Wizard of Oz, obviously another Wizard of Oz reference, but someone else thought it kind of reminded them of the emergency landing scene in Airplane. Now, the whole series, I feel like people have wondered what Coach Beard's first name is. Well, before Beard gets off the plane, he says, I love you, Ted, to which Ted responds, I love you too, Willis. So Beard's first name is Willis, but that was actually revealed in season 2, episode 1. It was just disguised. When the coaches were talking about the yips, Ted said, what you talking about, Willis? Now, obviously, that's a famous Gary Coleman different strokes quote, so we thought that's just what it was because of the way Ted talks, but it turns out that quote had double meaning back then. Now, the flight attendant who calls Ted an arsehole is the same one who escorted Henry to his flight in the season 3 premiere. Then we have Ted opening up Keely's gift, and it is the same Richmond green snow globe that Keely had bought for Barbara when she thought she was leaving, but isn't that over the liquid limit for carry-ons? All right, then we have our kind of flash forwards to everybody's future, and we see Keely's PR firm is back up and running. She has her whole staff back, and it's now called KBPR to include Barbara. Roy is named the manager of AFC Richmond, and he's decorating his office with, of course, artwork from his niece Phoebe, which includes one of her infamous boob pics that she got in trouble with the teacher for in a previous episode. But we have Roy taping over the nipples, just like Ted did when he taped over the picture of Keely in Jamie's locker in the pilot. Nate is seen having dinner with his family and Jade at his favorite table at his favorite restaurant, Taste of Athens, and Nick Muhammad, who plays Nate, pointed out on Twitter that the jacket he's wearing is from the suit that Ted had bought him. Then we see that Sam finally gets to play for the Nigerian team, and you all pointed out that he is wearing the number 10, which is usually for the best player on the team when it comes to international play. It's very important, and I know some people are a little sad that Sam didn't return the favor to Jamie and wear his number, but it's kind of sweet that Sam is the best player on the team, knowing what Edwin Akufo did to keep him away from that team. Now, in the previous episode, we learned that Jamie's dad was in rehab, so we see him reconnecting with his father in the finale, while Higgins is still throwing his team dinners, and you all caught some Easter eggs here, like Higgins' son again eyeing Yon's pretty date while they were playing with Nerf blasters, all things that happened in the Christmas episode. Okay, now let's head to the Crown and Anchor pub with Paul, Jeremy, and Baz. The commenter pointed out that their initials are like peanut butter and jelly, PB&J. These three are always together, makes sense. But also, their last names, we finally see them, and they either are a flower or mean flower. So that's really cute, especially when you know May. Someone pointed out it's May's Flowers, but May's last name is also Green. So her owning this pub where like all her little flowers come together is just really, really cute. A lot of you caught the Cheers reference, which the show has made many because Jason Sudeikis' uncle is George Wendt, aka Norm from Cheers. Now in the finale, we see May straighten the same picture of Geronimo that Sam, played by Ted Danson, straightened in the series finale of Cheers. Now, thank you, John, for pointing out that my first draft of this video had the actors' names switched, so I apologize for that. But the significance of that was to honor the actor Nicholas Colasanto, who played Coach on the series, who passed away. Now, that was the actual picture he kept in his dressing room. So, honoring Coach in both forms on Coach Ted Lasso and Coach from Cheers. Now, another commenter pointed out that the next words after May does that you can hear are from the customer and Trent, and it's "Thank you, Cheers." And Shannon, the girl who kicks the ball around with Ted, is the one we see buying Trent's book. And the book hilariously features a very brief foreword from Roy Kent. Now, we know that's a man of very few words, but this also just shows the evolution of Roy and Trent's relationship. Roy went from hating Trent to now writing the foreword in his book. The next thing we see is the little green army man. Of course, Henry gave those to Ted, and Ted gave them to people throughout the show. One of them being Dr. Sharon, who is now back at AFC Richmond. Now we see the nameplate showing what Dr. Sharon is doing, and we have her whole name, Dr. Sharon M. Fieldstone. Now the M in the middle, someone pointed out that this could be a reference to Sleepless in Seattle, the character named Dr. Marsha Fieldstone. Then we see Nate putting the believe sign back together, and it's with gold glue or glue with gold glitter, but either way, this is a reference to the Japanese art known as kintsugi, which was first mentioned by Tish the psychic, who explained its meaning to Rebecca and how the bonds are much stronger when you put it together like this, but also the meaning of the art in general and fixing the cracks and stuff is about forgiveness, learning to forgive yourself so you can forgive others, which was a big theme in season 3. Next up, we have Beard's wedding, where he marries a pregnant Jane, and no, it's not a dream sequence. Brendan Hunt, who plays Coach Beard, recently did a Reddit AMA where he debunked that theory and also explained why Ted wasn't at the wedding. So if you want to read that, I'll have the link down in the description below. Anyway, at the wedding, we see a lot of familiar faces, and Beard is wearing the same pants from the Beard After Hours episode. And speaking of that pants, we have the red-headed lady who was trying to fix his pants, and her boyfriend or husband, whoever the big dude that chased Beard in that episode. Great couple. They now have a baby. We also see Colin and Michael and Isaac with a date on his arm too, and she kind of looks at Michael, so I thought it but wasn't sure originally, so I didn't put it in my first video, but it seems like other people have thought this too, that maybe that woman is Michael's sister, which means Colin played wingman for his best friend Isaac. And seeing this reminds me of one of the conversations from the Christmas episode between Danny and Zero, when one mentions hooking him up with the identical, beautiful twin sister of his woman. And now the two women on Danny's arm are the same two he woke up with after his bad dream after what he did to the Greyhound. And then we see Ted wake up on the plane. Now the book he is holding is called How to Change Your Mind, The New Science of Psychedelics. And this is a callback to the Amsterdam episode and Beard making Ted his special shroom tea, saying this is how you change your mind. So it seems like maybe Ted's trying to understand what happened that night or how to change your mind or get more insight into that. Maybe it means something else. Also, someone pointed out that Ted was not able to sleep on the flight to the UK in the pilot, but now that he's heading home, he is able to sleep. So this is like where Ted should be Now at Henry's soccer game, Henry's wearing the number 9, same as Jamie Tart. We have Ted giving his classic be a goldfish advice. Also, Henry's team colors seem to be somewhat similar to Richmond with the red, navy, and white. Also, Ted coaching Henry is kind of like Roy retiring and coaching Phoebe's team. There's also a lot of musical significance in this episode because when Ted is on the plane, before the flash forwards start, we have the Cat Stevens song Father and Son, which fits obviously the theme here, and then it transitions into Fight Test by the Flaming Lips that also fits the theme and samples Father and Son. And then some of you pointed out that the episode ends with a close-up of Ted looking into the camera happy, while season 3 opened up with a close-up of Ted looking sad. And this is something similar to what we've seen in other seasons. Season 1, for the most part, opened with a close-up of Rebecca and ended with a close-up of Rebecca, and season 2 opened and closed with Nate. Okay, I think that's it. I think we got through it. We added a ton to my original list, thanks to you all. I don't know, there probably is more that y'all are gonna tell me. I don't know if I'll make a third video because this is already really long, but let's see what's going on. But I gotta know what your favorite Easter eggs, callbacks, and references were in this finale episode. What was your favorite one that you actually found, and then your favorite one you maybe learned after other people commented it? But let me know all the things you thought about Ted Lasso down in the comments, and if you want, you can check out more of my videos right over here, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button because I'm always here rambling about like movies and TV and stuff. But it's been fun hanging out with you to talk about all things Ted Lasso. As always, I'm Lisa. Thanks for listening to me ramble, and I'll see you next time.